Hello guys and welcome back. In today's lesson, we are going to take a look at the implementation of the Add Detail Group component. We will be using a practical example based on the DirectShape elements we created in a previous lesson. As you can see, we have an assembly of a column, base plate and foundation. In a typical construction scenario, these elements are connected using anchor bolts. This is where detail groups in Revit become incredibly useful. Section views in particular help us visualize the connections between structural elements, making them ideal for placing details like anchor bolt assemblies. Detail groups in Revit allow us to create assembled details once and place them in multiple section and drafting views, saving significant time compared to recreating the same details repeatedly. Our goal is to place a pre-made anchor bolt detail group into a section view, showing how it fits between the column and foundation. But first, let's review the DirectShape elements in Revit and the detail group we have already set up. If you missed the lesson on creating DirectShape elements, I recommend checking it out first to see how we set up these column and foundation components. Here we have our DirectShape elements in Revit. These elements were created using the DirectShape components of Rhino.Inside. We have our column element, base plate, and isolated foundation. We have also created two sections, Section 1 and Section 2, where we will place our detail groups. Now let's locate and place our detail group in Revit. We can find the detail group in the project browser under Detail Groups. We can easily drag and place the anchor bolt assembly detail group into Section 1. Notice that the detail group has an origin point and it's used to place or rotate the group. By default, the origin point is placed at the center of the group, but in our case, we have changed its location so that I can easily place it in the middle of the base plate and align it perfectly with the top surface of the base plate. If you find that the default origin point isn't aligned with your desired placement, adjusting the origin within the detail group settings will give you better control. This detail group will always be placed with respect to the origin when using the Add Detail component. Our goal is to automate this placement process using Grasshopper, ensuring that the detail group is accurately positioned in relation to the base plate in our section views. Now let's head over to Grasshopper to continue the workflow. We start by filtering the specific elements we want to work with. Using the category filter component, we can filter elements based on a given category. In this case, we have set the category to structural connections. This helps us target only the elements in this category, including the base plate family components. Our main focus is on the midpoint of the base plate, where we intend to place our detail group. By narrowing our selection to these relevant structural elements, we ensure that we are working only with the components necessary for our task. Next, we query the elements within the chosen category using the Query Elements component. This component allows us to extract all elements belonging to the structural connections category. It is important to note that the component has a default limit of 100 elements. If you are not retrieving all your elements, make sure to check and adjust this limit as needed. In our case, the default limit works fine since we have only 4 base plates. Now it's time to extract the geometry of the elements we have filtered. We will use the Element View Geometry component, which outputs the geometry of elements as they appear in a specified view. This is particularly useful when you want to work with specific elements in a certain view. We will connect our queried elements to this component. Next, we will select the view from which we want to extract the elements. Instead of relying on the Active View component, we use the Query Views component, which gives us access to all the views in the Revit document. We can then filter these views based on specific criteria. For instance, we have set the discipline to structural and the view family to section. With these filters applied, the component narrows down the views to Section 1 and Section 2. After filtering the views, we select the specific section where we want to place the anchor bolt detail group. Using the value picker, we choose Section 1 from the available sections in the project. Next, we connect this selected view to the view input of the Element View Geometry component. As a result, we can see in the Rhino viewport that it has only extracted the 2 base plates present in Section 1. Now that we have extracted the geometry, Let us examine the output of this component. We can see that there are 4 branches, but only 2 of them contain items, while the other 2 are empty. We cannot use this input directly, so we need to remove the empty branches. To do this, we have used the clean tree component, which eliminates the empty items from the data tree. This ensures we are working with only the valid data. Next, we use the deconstruct brep and list item components to extract the top face of the base plate. Finally, we extract the centroid of each plate, which we will use for the placement of our detail group. Now we connect all the inputs to the add detail group component. For the view input, we select the section view where the detail group will be placed. Next, the point input is set to the centroid of the base plate. For rotation, we can specify any angle needed to align the detail group correctly within the view. And the type input is where we choose the specific detail group type we want to insert. If there is only one detail group in the Revit document, the component will automatically use that group. However, since there might be multiple groups, it's recommended to use the query group types component to ensure the correct group is selected. In our case, we only have one group, which is the anchor bolt assembly detail group. Once all these inputs are connected and the component is activated, the add detail group component places the anchor bolt detail group in the section view, aligned precisely at the base of the column. Switching back to Revit, we can now see that the detail group has been placed automatically in section 1. The anchor bolt assembly aligns perfectly with the base plate, accurately representing the connection between the column and foundation. Now let's switch to section 2 and also adjust the angle of the detail group. As we rotate the detail group, we can observe that it maintains its central position while adapting to the new orientation. This flexibility ensures that our detail groups remain accurately positioned and properly oriented, regardless of the section view or angle. By easily switching between different sections and adjusting angles, the add detail group component allows us to maintain consistency and precision across all our views. In today's lesson, we have explored how the add detail group component makes the placement of anchor bolt assemblies in Revit easier. By automating this process, we can save time and ensure consistency across all project views. I hope you found this lesson helpful. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.